to extend our deep gratitude to our hosts, the United Nations Environmental Program, for kindly hosting this Expo, for making it successful, and also for giving us some space to discuss the Arab states. I just wanted to mention that there are not that many of us here, and the reason being there's a number of partnerships forums going in parallel at the same time, plus the high-level meeting. Thus, I would invite you, please, those of you who sit at the second row, to please come around one round table, and we will try to be as informal as possible. And we have requested our distinguished presenters to kindly shorten their presentations to up to 4 slides and make more space for your questions, so it becomes a more like discussion type of forum. Is it agreeable? All right, thank you very much. Now, let me take this opportunity to present our speakers today. The opening will be done by Mr. Jeff Pruitt, the Deputy Director of the Regional Bureau of Arab States Regional Center in Cairo. This is the UNDP Regional Center in Cairo. Mr. Jeff Pruitt. We're still waiting for Mr. Omer Mohammed Ahmed Al-Hajj, Director General of International Cooperation, Minister of Finance and National Economy of Sudan. He is the national focal point for South-South cooperation, and I see them entering. Welcome. I would also like to invite you to welcome Ms. Dana Erekat, the Special Advisor to the Minister, Head of Aid Management and Coordination Directorate, Palestinian Minister of Planning and Administrative Development. Our next speaker will be His Excellency Ambassador Abu Ish, Deputy Assistant Foreign Minister for International Cooperation, and also national focal point for South-South cooperation. We're also glad to welcome here Mr. Abdel Karim Sma, Country Program Manager from IFAD, International Fund for Agricultural Development. Later today, we will be joined by His Excellency Ambassador Hamid Opelieru, Assistant Secretary General of the Organization for Islamic Cooperation. We also have here with us Mr. Kishan Kodai. He is currently the practice leader of this regional center in Cairo that I already mentioned, and formerly he is Deputy Resident Representative for UNDP Saudi Arabia and Chair of the only one UN theme group on South-South cooperation in the Arab States region, and he will be presenting their experiences. My name is Edem Bakshish. I am the Chief for the Regional Division for Arab States of the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, and later at the closing we will be joined by the Director of the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, Mr. Yiping Zhu. He is currently attending another session. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Jeff Pruitt to kindly start his presentation.
I don't have the PowerPoint, but... Okay, thank you very much, colleagues and friends. It's a real privilege to be with you here today, providing support to the Global South-South Expo in Kenya. And I'd like to second Edem's remarks about our generous hosts at UNON, the Kenyan government, and UNEP itself. But it's also a privilege to share the podium with a distinguished group of speakers such as this. I think this, in spite of the small crowd, this will be an extremely relevant and interesting panel to hear reflections from the Arab States region. Before I begin, I would like to lastly, and I'm sorry for issues of protocol, but I do have to extend a very strong commendation to Edem. He's extremely humble, but without him, I don't think we would have seen so many efforts in promoting South-South cooperation and triangulation in the Arab region, and it really is due mostly to his hard work, his dedication. So with that, I'd like to give Edem a little round of applause. So.
Jeff, thank you so much, but really it goes back to all of you guys.
Really. He's a superstar. Okay, now I only have 10 minutes, so I will try and be very precise this morning. and just discuss the three pillars of the harmonized approach to regional support to South-South cooperation. And there's an Arabic proverb which I often use and enjoy, which says, "In the desert of life, the wise person travels by caravan, while the fool prefers to travel alone." And I think that's very relevant as we discuss South-South cooperation, because no longer do we travel alone, and nor should we. New technologies, medical treatments, governance techniques, financial and intellectual transfers are being shared under the arch of South-South cooperation, saving millions of lives, reducing poverty, and improving basic freedoms. Societies that retract, censor, hoard, suppress, restrict, inhibit South-South are neglecting the benefit of innovative solutions to development challenges. And yet this is really nothing new. Organized caravans were actually visible by the second millennium BCE that could carry goods along a great distance, as fodder was mostly available along the way. So the domestication of camels, and this is in reference to my earlier proverb, allowed nomads to control the long-distance trade in spices and silk from the Far East to the Arabian Peninsula. So this region has indeed always been a leader for centuries in its willingness to share, trade, and engage with others. So the UN Office of South-South Cooperation, in partnership with UNDP in the region, wishes to really reharness this energy and present it in a new and accessible manner. And that's what we'll be discussing today. So in this context, I would like to discuss some key issues pertaining to scaling up South-South cooperation in the Arab States region, all of which will culminate in the first ever regional Expo currently scheduled for February 2014 in Doha, and we'll return to that. So the three key elements that we'll be discussing today are the following: national level coordination boards on South-South and triangular cooperation, the online South-South cooperation portal for real-time access to South-South related information, and the Arab Regional Funding Facility for scaling up exchange in South-South solutions, technologies, and expertise within the region and beyond. With respect to the first of the three elements mentioned above, our distinguished speakers from Egypt, Sudan, and Palestine will share with you their experiences. We also have the benefit of hearing from IFAD on examples of how multilateral financing could support South-South cooperation. So I will just focus on the second issue, which is the online South-South cooperation portal. And here I would like to bring up an image, and also perhaps Edem will give a real-time example of how this will be used. Now, the work on the portal is currently ongoing, so it remains in a beta or an introductory version. But we do have it online and in printed format in the mapping of South-South cooperation mechanisms and solutions. This was initially supported by the Islamic Development Bank and the United Nations for the Arab States, and it will be fully fledged by the earlier mentioned first Arab Regional South-South Expo. So today, simply to entice, we wanted to outline some of the features that such a portal will have in order to serve as a trusted online source for real-time access to South-South related information. So I'll give an opportunity to Edem.
Very quickly, as Jeff mentioned, it is still in beta and we're working on it. We're currently in the process of the documented solutions are being uploaded to the portal. And the features of this portal will be, there will be a number of important features, but it will mainly feature 4 types of entries: centers of excellence, Arab experts, solutions, and South-South cooperation mechanisms. And just to bring you an example, anyone who would go to this portal would be able to look at the map and identify any of these entries, or search, go into the search option and search by keyword, by country, etc., etc. I think for now we just... Okay.
So this really will aspire to be a one-stop shop for the most demanded information on South-South cooperation in the region. It will contain the following 6 items. It will have documented homegrown solutions with the potential for transfer. Can you go back to the PowerPoint? It will have a description of existing mechanisms in support to South-South cooperation. It will contain a roster of Arab experts and centers of excellence. It will contain partnership proposals with confirmed partial commitments. It will have relevant training opportunities and training materials. And lastly, a statistical and research data, as well as other data on a demand-driven basis. So this is where people will go should they wish to learn more about South-South cooperation in the Arab region. There will be 5 key functions of this portal. One, it will have direct listing, where users can independently upload relevant information. For example, partnership proposals that they're looking to have financed. It will be used for mapping as well, where relevant examples in the case of homegrown solutions or mechanisms in support of South-South cooperation are shown in a GIS-like function, so the originating location is visually represented on an electronic map. It will have matching, which is an important function which will enable seekers of solutions to find different contributors of solutions. It will enable you to search in different thematic areas. And lastly, monitoring, which are initiatives that benefit from the 3-in-1 multilateral support architecture, as well as other interesting parties. They can systematically report on implementation and also provide results from the progress to date of their various activities. So we think this will be really a very exciting new addition. And actually, we would encourage other regions to replicate such efforts. So in eventuality, we will have a global portal that can be used for the world's benefit. So let me, in closing, just say how excited I am personally to be engaged in this exercise, as well as contribute to the upcoming first ever regional South-South Expo to be held in Doha this February. And I'd like to give a nod to the very substantial and kind support of the Qatari government. It's extremely appreciated from all of us within the UN family. And this event will put its main focus on showcasing solutions for enhancing the capacity of countries in the Arab region to improve along 3 thematic areas: employment opportunities for women and young professionals, to address water scarcity, as well as to make use of vast renewable energy potential. So those will be the main 3 thematic areas of the first ever regional South-South Expo in Doha. So I encourage everyone to watch this space closely. Exciting things are happening in the Arab region. We're all proud to be a part of it. And we look forward to seeing you in Doha. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff, for a very detailed presentation, although it was very concise. I would like to invite our next 3 presenters, as Jeff has mentioned, to speak about their findings and recommendations that they arrived at during the national stock-taking exercise on South-South cooperation trends and opportunities in their respective countries and territories. Just to mention that this has been a joint initiative at the regional level, and for the moment there are 3 countries, Palestine, Egypt and Sudan, that have finalized their draft reports, and they will be presenting to you some of the ideas out from these reports. There are other countries on the go. Algeria, Tunisia and Saudi Arabia is also working towards preparing their report. So I would like to invite His Excellency Mr. Amir Mohammed Ahmed Al-Hajj, Director General of International Cooperation, Minister of Finance and National Economy of Sudan, to kindly present their case. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And so that I appreciate this invitation to attend this forum, and we hope that to present our experience and our relation with Ibero, which is developed in cooperation and coordination with the UN, Khartoum, and New York. So I think the time, I think, is a limiting factor, so that I will start to immediately on this paper. Who will manage? So I think this is the process is started with the UN and line ministries, and I think the outcomes of this process, which is started, is that most of us will understand in Sudan, they understand the South-South and triangular coordination. This is one of the outcomes of this operation. Also, start ownership process of the South-South triangular cooperation, so that in Sudan, so that we have to start and to understand this the ownership process, so that from the first day we start this process of understanding this initiative. Also, start to build trust in the same program, so that this is, and this is one of the outcomes of this. And I think the most important is that we think in Sudan we are working with different donors in different projects, and this initiative is bringing donors together. And I think this will result in a good and I think a high impact for this initiative. Next. If we refer to Sudan itself, Sudan is, has rich in diversity of resources, so that Sudan is, you see, in agriculture, in livestock, in minerals, so that there's a long resources, and this will help so that when we start the relation or strategic relation with South-South and triangular, this will support the process of the building a strategic relation rather than to be a commercial or win-win approach. So that Sudan is ready for this. Also Sudan, the situation of Sudan, and I said that Sudan is a bridging. Sudan is in a position so that it will bridge East, West, North, and South Africa together, and Central Africa together. And Sudan is working on this. And during this process, Sudan is working on building roads, railway, and other through finance from the government of Sudan, and finance also loans, which is considered as a very high cost loans instead. But Sudan now is linked with Egypt with 3 roads, linked with Eritrea with 2 roads, and we are working on linking with Ethiopia 3 roads, plus now we have this road which is from Port Sudan to Guinea, which is in the most important research, and this is one of the program of the African Union, which is Pan-African roads. And now Sudan is working on this. In addition to that, we are linking with the South Sudan, with the road starting from Cairo or from Alexandria. So that Sudan now, from its own resources and through loans, they start to connect with other countries. And this, if you see it, these roads, if you go to the future, it is only 1 lane, 7 meters width. So that if we start this process, that means that we need a lot of support to build on this road. Also now Sudan, with South Sudan, we start to talk about trade. And as you know that all of you, we are talking with the EU, we are talking with the UN, we are talking with the World Bank in the last mission. And also we have a meeting with the South, government of South in New York, and we are talking of the river transport between the North and the South. And I think this is one of the big, and we have also talked with JICA related to this program, so that to have work on this. And if this is facilitated, so that means Sudan is a bridging country with different countries. Also, our experience with Sudan is mainly dominating with the productive sector, agriculture and livestock. And if we want to work with the other world and to support this, and in addition to minerals, now Sudan is also working on minerals, so that this will be some sort of relation with the South-South, and it will build a strategic planning and a strategic relation, which is, by the end of the day, it lead to economic finance, and also we have some problem of finance. And if we build the resources plus finance resources, and also the link with Arab countries, so that in this area we have a lot to do as a South-South, and also with the link with the emerging countries, the BRICS. Also, all these areas will support Sudan, and Sudan is qualified to work in this area. Also, Sudan have a partnership with these countries, and also Sudan, I think we cannot concentrate only on purely economic development. Also, we concentrate on social development. And Sudan, one of the problems of Sudan is that the social services, and one of the problems of the conflict in Sudan is related to social services, mainly for the water, for the range grants and other things. So that now we are working and have experience with the multi-donor trust fund. which is financed with different regions. When the donors come together, and I think this is support highly, this is not directly to the social service. Also, it supports the decentralization process. Because if you work on the social services and you start to work with the demand-driven approach and you start to work with the community and you start from the community up, so that I think this approach will lead to, and now the result is this program and the working with UN agencies through this program of the different line ministries and also building on the demand-driven approach. And I think demand-driven approach now is one of the things can be followed to reach, to develop and to reach the decentralization process and to start something and also to reduce conflict. And I think this, our experience is this. If we have time, we can explain more on this issue. Next. So I think here we want to talk to the strategy. So that's, I think, Sudan, South-South cooperation and triangle needs a strategy and proper coordination mechanism. Because this strategy is want to all to come together, to work together, instead of working with direct relations. So that's the strategy, and I think this strategy, if we develop a strategy, and if we start to work on a strategy, this will lead to development and lead to emerging of this program faster than what we expect. So that I think we need to develop this strategy. And also in Sudan, when we come to Sudan, so that we have a weakening in the institutional and human and institutional capacity, and this leads to capacity building. And if this capacity building also need to have a legal framework for this, between the donors and also to have a framework for South-South triangle cooperation. Because if we start, because some people think about it just as economic relation, just as an investment relation, but if you start to work it as a forum and we start to develop it as some sort of, we have a framework which is come and implement it and also tackle all the issues, not concerned. And also in Africa here, our problem is the conflict, is different development between different regions. And also this needs people to concentrate and to work on, and this framework will support. Also, I think the development disparities between different regions, I talk about it. And for Sudan, we have, talking about this area, we have a lot of relation with Arab funds, we have relation with the BRICS countries, we have relation with EU, we have relation with UN agencies, and all these countries are working with this. We have a relation with DFID. All these are working in Sudan, but the other things we said to that, if we come together, all of us come together and have one flag and one project or one program, and instead of changing from working project-based to program-based, I think this also will support and Sudan and help us in reaching good coordination. For our, I think we can come to the recommendation because the time also, sometimes the time is between you and the pressure. For Sudan, I think there is a political will and support from high political level to support a champion of this initiative. And I think this was one of the most important. The first vice president, I saw during these meetings, and he's ready to champion this initiative in Sudan. I think this is one of the things which Sudan is ready and supporting this initiative to bring the people together and the countries together. In Sudan also restore foreign relation international. I talk about it with different developing countries, but the most important thing for us now is the relation with neighboring countries. And now we start with our relation with the south of Sudan. We think because south of Sudan is an area which we can, through it, we can come to the center of Africa, or also we come to East Africa or south of Africa. And I think now after the latest visit of the President Salva Kiir to the north and the President Bashir to the south, and now the people start to implement the 9 agreements which he signed in last September 2012 in Addis, and this, so that I think now this progress, and this will facilitate the approach. And even in this area, we talk with JICA, I think this is through this program of the river transport, so that, as you know, that the river in the north is shortest rather than the river in the south, so that, and the problem is mainly in the south, so that we want this project to be a joint project to work on it. Also, we have the National Council of Strategic Planning reporting to the Council of Ministers. Now already they start, after the meeting with Mr. Ahmed here at the UN, already they start to work on this initiative. And for the Ministry of Finance, also the Ministry of Finance, of the recommendation here, to start to also define a focal point for this program, so that, or this initiative. So that in Sudan, although these are recommendations, but already we start to implement this recommendation, and we hope that we have progress in this initiative. Also, we talk about UN approach, so that I think delivery was UN delivered the program as well. I think this is one of the most important things, so that all of them together to work together and to come to work together. Because in Sudan we have UN agencies. Some of them we have a link with the Ministry of Finance directly. Others have a link with the technical ministers, and so that still we are working on a project approach. But if we work on the program approach, because we found one unit is working in water, UN agency, other is working in health, other is so that we start to work one delivery. And also, we are talking about the implementation approach. And as I said that, we have the weak capacities. And if we start to work with the direct implementation with the financing institution, this will lead to more weakness. So that I think this is the issue of the ownership, and issue stated by the international organization, that we think that we should work on the direct execution and the national execution, because we have this Paris and Accra, and all of them are talking about ownership. So that if this, through this forum or through this initiative of South-South and triangular, if you start to adopt the system of national execution or national implementation, this will lead to building capacity and the same. For us, we find that for the national implementation or national execution, we follow it in the program which we have loans, so that this is implemented by the national execution. But sometimes we see some donors start to talk about direct execution because there is a weakness in the capacity. So that I think if we start with direct execution, this will lead to more weaknesses. And I think this is area, and I hope that the South-South initiative will put it in the framework and start to talk about it and to put it as one of the risks in implementation of this program. Okay, we can go to the next. Already we established a unit. Also, I want to talk about South-South cooperation strategy. Should be built on the comparative advantage of African resources. And here I'll not talk about Sudan, but I talk about African resources, especially land, water, climate, and minerals. And through developing infrastructures, trade, partnership, and investment, instead of depending on trade, because trade is a win-win to one side. But we talk about partnership, and partnership, we have a lot of research on partnership. There are a lot of experience on partnership. And then we come to the investment. And I think this, if we start, this is a relation with African countries and on the resources of the African countries. And as we know, the population, the world population is increasing. And now Africa have the resources, have the water, have the land, and all these things, so that this will result in a good and in the future relationship. And I think this strengthens the situation of the South-South and Triangular Initiative. And thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation and for giving us some details. And I think your efforts are very much commendable. You were able to generate consensus over a number of issues among a number of partners and arrive to some very practical recommendations, among them to create a specialized South-South cooperation entity, the strategy for the country on South-South cooperation, and you have already been able to prioritize on a demand-driven basis what are the areas of focus. So with this, I would like to invite our next speaker, and as we discussed, because we would like to have some time for a question and answer session, we would invite our speakers to please speak to the agreed 4 slides and also leave some space for the questions and answers. Thank you very much. Ms. Dana Erikat, Special Advisor to the Minister, Head of Aid Management and Coordination Directorate, Palestinian Ministry of Planning and Administrative Development.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and it's truly a pleasure to be here on behalf of the Palestinian government today. And let me start by thanking the UN South-South Cooperation for inviting Palestine to take part of this very important and significant initiative. And also to thank Adam for chairing and organizing all of this work. I want to give you a brief background about how this came about and how it came about today before I start my findings, which at the Ministry of Planning and Administrative Development, we have the Aid Management and Coordination Directorate, which is responsible for managing development work and technical cooperation. So in partnership with the UN team in Palestine, we began a stock-taking exercise to identify the South-South cooperation initiatives. This happened through our work with the line ministries and donors as the main coordinating focal point. So it was through a number of workshops as well as surveys and in-depth meetings with the various ministries and donors. In addition, the UN worked very closely with the civil society organizations and private sectors, people on identifying the South-South initiatives that are taking place in Palestine. So as Adam mentioned earlier, a report will be shared with you later through email, will be emailed. And with this, I will start to present the findings of this stock-taking exercise. So let me start by giving a brief description of the national framework, there isn't really much of a national framework, but there are bits and pieces, as you will see later in the finding and in the report. So within MOPAD, which is the Ministry of Planning, there is the Aid Management Coordination Directorate, which I represent here today. And we coordinate the development and technical cooperation efforts, including South-South initiatives. In addition, there is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which has 97 missions, consulates and embassies, and 71 of which are in developing countries. So they also facilitate some of the South-South exchange efforts. Now, in terms of the SSC, the South-South and Technical Cooperation Engagement, in MOPAD, we have a number of initiatives that we have worked with. Of these, IPSA is one that you're probably familiar with, which was the India and Brazil and South Africa initiative, where the UN had worked with Palestine on a number of projects, including youth centers, and there's some projects that are still ongoing, and you could find more information in the Expo booth on IPSA. In addition, there's a more recent initiative, which is the Conference on Cooperations amongst East Asian Countries in Palestine, the CPAD. And this is a very important initiative led by the government of Japan and the Islamic Development Bank in cooperation with the East Asian countries that work in Palestine. We had the first meeting a few months ago in Bangkok to kick off this initiative, and it came about because there are a number of East Asian countries that already work in Palestine, and some are eager to work in Palestine and yet cannot have representative there for political reasons. And a lot of them do the work through JICA, the Japanese International Cooperation Agency. So with this, we all came along and started discussing further coordination amongst the East Asian countries with the work that is being done in Palestine. And this started on technical cooperation, and now we have a meeting that is also planned for private sector promotion. So we're also looking at coordinating the private sector efforts under the CPAD framework. Additionally, there are the civil society organizations. These typically work on ad hoc activities in sectors, in the human rights and agriculture and democratic governance. And fortunately, we at the government are not very aware of the initiatives that happen within the CSOs, because there is somewhat of a lack of coordination in that effort. We're aware of some, but not comprehensively. And this is, again, why this exercise was really important to identify the gaps and the challenges for South-South cooperation. The private sector, there are a number of businesses, especially in agriculture, that work with other Arab and South countries, such as Jordan and Egypt. Also, JICA is also taking part on this, and through their triangular cooperation with Jordan as well. So they initiate work between Palestine and Jordan with South-South cooperation. And the Ministry of Agriculture also works directly with some South countries as well. And there's the UN agencies and donors that have, again, initiatives that are, fall within the South-South, but again, they're not within a comprehensive or a larger framework. I mentioned IPSA as one. Some of the donor countries, you will read more about it in the report, have programs and projects that they conduct especially through TC. Okay. So the challenges. Most likely the challenges that we'll present today will be, a lot of them will be shared amongst all the people on the panels, with the exception of one that is very unique to Palestine. And that's the most important challenge to Palestine, which is the Israeli occupation. And the Israeli occupation not only presents a challenge in terms of internal access and movement and a cause of underdevelopment, but it also presents a challenge for external access and movement, especially within South-South cooperation, and especially amongst other Arab countries and Islamic countries. So we know that if we are to engage in a exchange of experts from other Arab countries, I believe very few will be allowed to come into Palestine easily. The process is strenuous, it takes a lot of political pressure, and it's extremely challenging. In addition to this, even if they are granted the permission to enter, the process of entering is actually a big challenge and could be exhausting to the people coming in. There is also the occupation is also an impediment to trade, which actually is an opportunity that I'll present later. So trade amongst Palestine with other Arab countries or South countries, but the impediment by the occupation really poses a challenge for this process. Additionally, as I alluded to earlier, there is an absence of a clear framework and national policies. So we have a number of initiatives. We have the Aid Management Coordination Facility, or unit. We have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. However, we do not have a clear framework that fits within the South-South cooperation and promotes South-South cooperation, or even ensures its sustainability in the future, or its development. There is a low level of awareness. In the first workshop that we held at MOPAD along with the UN team for the stock taking exercise, one of the surprising things, for me at least, was a number of the people from the focal points from the ministries really did not understand the concept of South-South cooperation. And when they were presented the surveys before it was explained, a lot of them answered by saying, we don't know what this is. We don't have any such initiatives. However, when the UN team sat with them and asked them more details about the types of projects, pretty much each one of them had some kind of a South-South initiative going on within their sector. But the concept of it as a framework was very absent. And there was an absence of what the benefits are of South-South and why it is unique and why it should be addressed differently from other development cooperations that take place in development projects or even technical cooperation projects. There is also a lack of information and coordination mechanism. Like I mentioned at MOPAD, we are not very aware of what takes place within the civil society organizations or the NGOs or the work that they do. And let me also add that there is work that is being done with the universities as well on educational exchanges with South-South countries, where these countries work directly with the universities and the educational institutions. And there's, you read about it in the newspaper, but that's about it. It's not within a larger framework that actually leads to projects that are ongoing or projects that are in the development. So you have a gap between the expertise that is needed and what is really on the ground. And that's where, this mechanism is really important to be able to link the two together, even, at the university and education level. And finally, the financial constraints. Really, a number of the initiatives that we look at, they take place, one project happens and then it stops. And that's because most of the time, it's because of the financial constraints of South-South cooperations. Funding, Palestine is highly dependent on aid and highly dependent on technical cooperation, development cooperation, budget support. So, there are shifting priorities. And a lot of times, these priorities do not necessarily address some of the urgent needs, such as such an initiative. So, coming up with a funding mechanism that ensures the continuation of South-South cooperation and the benefits of it is really, really important. Finally, the opportunities. So We have very well-developed capacities and experiences which can be scaled up and shared within the SSTC in Palestine. Some of the institutions that participated in the stock-taking exercise have identified these sectors in which they can contribute. And these are the ICT, the Information Communication and Technology sector, the agriculture sector, environment, cultural heritage, education, and health. Palestine presents a tremendous opportunity for being able to share their experience in these sectors and how they can benefit other developing countries and other South countries within these sectors. And while Palestine is mainly the recipient, it could offer experts as well. But however, we have to be careful here because we are still developing our sectors. So we can't take all of our excellent experts all at once outside the countries and then be left with very few to continue developing our own sectors. Strengthening and broadening the regional linkages in terms of the geography, in terms of the language, in terms of the culture. And this is not just amongst the Arab countries, but this is also amongst other South countries, including the Latin American countries. I think there is a huge potential for exchange of culture, for similar geographies. And this takes me to the next point, which is the expatriates and the Palestinians and the diaspora. And if you look at the geography today, Palestinians are pretty much in almost every single country around the world, and especially in the South countries. Latin America has a huge amount of Palestinians that reside there. They're second generation and third generation. However, there's still very much a strong political link. And so to bring back, people of Palestinian heritage into Palestine to help the Palestinians is very important, and vice versa. And also Palestinians in Arab countries. This is specific also to health. There are a number of Palestinian doctors in the Arab diaspora. These are health practitioners. These could really contribute and benefit the Palestinians in Palestine. And finally, there's an opportunity for improved economic prospects. This is something that Palestine is heavily investing in currently. However, this takes me back to the first challenge that you saw, which is the occupation, because with the continuous occupation, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to achieve the economic opportunity. However, business partnerships, trade amongst the different South countries and agreement, especially in the agriculture sector, pose a tremendous opportunity for Palestine. Employment and income generation are also, currently we have a 23% unemployment rate in Palestine. However, if we look at the potential for economic growth, if some of the restrictions were eased and more investments take place, this percentage will drop significantly. So, next. And now the linkages and how to move forward. Again, this is very similar to what His Excellency from Sudan has mentioned, is the establishment of a National Coordination Committee. We have somewhat of a basis already in place, and however, now we're working on establishing a committee that could fit the South-South and technical cooperation, triangular cooperation within a framework. And would comprise of the relevant stakeholders, including ministries, CSOs, as private sector. And the way forward, I think the most important thing is the advocacy and addressing the issue of movement and access. I can't stress enough how important and crucial this is to any initiative to be successful. However, at the same time, there are ways, as we know, the example of JICA that I had mentioned, of a facilitator facilitating some of the expertise and the cooperation within Palestine, but no matter what, it will continue to be limited when you have, movement issues that are very basic that cannot, would impede this process. We need to establish a clear and coherent national policy framework. And this is, again, something that we hope to continue working on along with the UN team in Palestine and taking this forward. We're very interested, and this is a priority for the Palestinian government to take this forward, to create an information sharing and coordination mechanism to ensure that there's no duplication of the efforts, and that the efforts that are in place actually benefit the national priorities and benefit the development priorities that are already in place. So to create the link of information between the education sector, the private sector, and the development projects that are taking place. And to develop a mechanism for greater Palestinian contribution to South-South and TC, and that's in terms of providing Palestinian experts where Palestine can be most, a contributor to SSTC. To develop the capacities and raise awareness, and to really raise awareness about the benefits of South-South and the potential and the benefits not just to what Palestine can receive, but also to putting Palestine on the map and giving back to what Palestine has received in aid and in technical cooperation. The financial limitations and resource allocation, that is something that we need to work on to see how best the funding can be allocated and raised to fit within the national policy framework, and to ensure sustainability as opposed to having ad hoc projects that 1 and 2 years and they end and there's no long-term impact. It's just, they're good while they lasted, as they say. And finally, implementing trade agreements. There are a number of trade agreements currently signed with a number of ministries, more specifically the Ministry of Agriculture and a number of other countries, South countries and Arab countries, that cannot be implemented, and even European countries that are not being implemented as a result of the Israeli occupation. So how do you take these trade agreements and ensure that they are implemented and link the South-South cooperation to these trade agreements? This presents a tremendous potential for Palestine. And thank you.
Thank you, Dana, very much. I think this in-depth analysis that you presented creates an opportunity for actually very practical next step initiative on addressing the challenges, the impediments that you have mentioned, starting with awareness raising, capacity development, and eventually developing the national strategy on South-South cooperation. I just wanted to mention that we would like to have some time for discussion. So I apologize. Please apologize. I request for your understanding. If you could mark the questions that you have, and after the third presentation, we're going to have a short break for the questions and answers, and then we will proceed to the next batch of presentations. With this, I would like to invite Ambassador Abu Ish, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Egypt, to present their case.
Thank you very much, Adam. Good morning, everybody. I would like to seize this opportunity to thank the UNDP Regional Office and all its staff for inviting us to this special event and to talk about such an important issue. The South-South cooperation was a matter of concern for Egypt for a long time, taking into consideration that it is based on clear and well-identified principles such as non-intervention in internal affairs, non-conditionality, sharing experiences and best practices, and sharing also different and relevant technology which are more compatible to our needs as South countries. Based on this issue, Egypt started to think about promoting its technical cooperation with other countries of the South, so it's built a fund for technical cooperation in African countries was established in 1981, and it worked in that area for more than 30 years so far. And also another technical cooperation fund was also built in 1992 after the Soviet retreat from Afghanistan. This technical cooperation was aimed at enhancing relationship of technical cooperation with CIS countries. It worked very well, specifically in the human resource development and training courses in different areas, and specifically in the Arabic language and Islamic affairs. Well, having said so, for so many years, we had to go through a process of revision and reassessment of our activities in these areas, and at that time, it started maybe exactly 2 or 3 years ago, we had to reassess our work based on relevant challenges that we faced. The first challenge is that many countries are covered by our activities are no longer recipient countries, if I may say so, and they developed specific experiences that we might need to share with. Also, we had to make sure that to promote the efficiency of our activities in relevant countries not covered by the two funds in Egypt. So this process started in a time with the stock-taking exercise provided by the UNDP regional office. At that time, we established a new project of cooperation with UNDP, trying to materialize and to formulate a national strategy for South-South cooperation. We needed to go through a clear mechanism for coordination among relevant ministries and governmental authorities who plays a specific role in enhancing South-South cooperation activities. At that time as well, we had to focus on specific areas which Egypt has an added value to share with other countries. So we prefer to focus on thematic areas such as ICT, integrated water resource management, food security, women empowerment, and spatial planning and enhancing the role of SMEs. The new project that we already established with the UNDP right now is trying to make a link to enhance these thematic areas experiences with relevant countries specifically not covered by the two funds activities. So we thought about rescheduling and restructuring our institutional setup by formulating and establishing a new agency for development, which already was announced during the General Assembly meeting in last September. This new agency will not be limited to only Africa and CIS countries, but it will promote South-South cooperation with other emergent countries in the South. This South-South cooperation will no longer be in terms of donor and recipient perception or principle. It will be based on inflow and outflow activities of technical cooperation and other relevant South-South countries. So, as well, trying to enhance this idea in our last UNDAF that started in January 2013 and entered into implemented during after the last executive board of the UNDP in June. We were very keen to insert the idea of South-South cooperation in all relevant activities and projects made with all UN agencies. That's why South-South cooperation became a major part of all our activities with donor countries or with the UN activities. I would like to stop with these informations, trying to give more opportunity for questions and remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. In fact, Egypt is among, if not the only one, the first country in the region that initiated the national level South-South cooperation initiative successfully. And I'm also aware of the fact that Palestine and Sudan, they're also on their way to prepare national level initiatives. So I would like to invite any potential partners, those of you who might be interested, to discuss with them. They have some concepts that they brought with them. After these sessions, you're most welcome to initiate bilateral discussions. With this, I would like to suggest that we take 3 comments at this time, and then we'll have more later. So may I ask you to please start?
So, Dr. Wadid Aryan from the League of Arab States Acced Center. In fact, I was really pleased listening to the South-South cooperation from the national level. But also I would like to add that in the regional level, because through the Arab League of States we have a good cooperation with South America. We already had 3 summits till now with the South American countries, and we have a good list for economic issues, for social issues, for environmental issues. And the cooperation is expanding. I'm just giving you one small idea that the Brazilian satellite, there is a protocol now signed with Egypt and Morocco that we can receive their images directly and we can distribute it free to all Arab countries. This is very good type of cooperation. Second, I would say if we're talking about conservation agriculture, Brazil has transferred its technology to all Arab countries through FAO, and we should have really built direct bridge with Brazil to that direction. And if I have to speak about what we are doing as regional specified organization, specialized organization, 21 countries in Africa has been trained inside ACSAT, for instance. This is one of the Arab organizations, about water efficiency, monitoring drought, monitoring land degradation, etc. Many training courses has taken place. So regionally, we have a lot of things to do with India, with China, with Latin America, but I would say that private sector is more successful in this story, because the means for finance is, the mechanism is already exists. And that's why the Egyptian farmers or owners of land, especially in desertic areas, they really made good use of this kind of change of experience. With South Africa, for instance, we transferred a lot of types of new technology for agriculture, with Chile in South America. We managed even to come to Europe with the grapes in a very well organized system that they leave the market in April, we enter the market immediately in April, and we continue the chain between us. So this kind of cooperation we would like to highlight, because it's very important. So I would have liked very much that we see NGOs, private sectors, and also regional experience with this session, and I hope Doha could focus on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this comment. In fact, we have the League of Arab States as one of the important partners during the high-level event in Doha, and your comments are well taken. And also, thank you very much for this proactive suggestion. We have a number of ideas we want to discuss with the League of Arab States, among them the regional level stock taking that we're finalizing now. So maybe we can discuss later. We have two representatives. If Sebastian allows me to first invite our speaker on this side, and then the next Sebastian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Aziz Arya from FAO. I just want to make a comment, not trying to make it an issue, hopefully. In the spirit of the proverb used by Mr. Pruitt, there seems to be a gross oversight of FAO being excluded from this sort of a debate. The fact that the Doha event is news to us now, this minute. If you look at what we have done, South-South cooperation has happened over many years, and FAO has been a direct partner. Let me mention a few names here, a few countries: Algeria, Morocco, Oman, Jordan, Egypt, and Yemen, where we have been actively involved in South-South cooperation. There has been stock taking. I did not really see much of FAO in there. But let me just also say that FAO can offer quite a few, some support in a few areas that were mentioned by Palestine, which is not only a pleasure to see at the podium, but also the issues that were raised also by His Excellency from Sudan on the framework, development of a framework and a legal system or an institutional environment in which SSC can happen. For instance, FAO has helped China, Indonesia, Vietnam, and now in the process with Turkey, and a few other countries, and also in discussions with South Africa to help them develop their frameworks, how SSC can can help. So if FAO could provide some of its experiences in these areas to support you. And I do hope will be more actively involved as a resource, and I think if you look at it, it's not a small organization. It's probably the biggest technical organization in the UN system. And I do think it is an oversight, but we just wanted it to be noted. And it is a good resource to use. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for this, and it is well noted. We do think that FAO is a major player, especially taking into account that FAO was among a few agencies that have already hosted the Global Expo. The process that we have taken with the Arab States Expo, the preparation, the first preparatory consultative meeting took place during the previous Global Expo in Vienna. The FAO representative was there. I was trying to find the name. And we actually proposed on an equal basis, we proposed to all the UN agencies present at that moment, and we also reached out to some more agencies to please partner with us on this initiative. This having been said, we are very much open at this point. Of course, we will have to consult with our host, the government of Qatar, on how this could be addressed, but at least we can discuss with some of our other valued partners in this Expo, who lead one of the solution forums, and see how we can make sure that we benefit from the experience that FAO generated in the region and beyond. So I thank you for this comment, and we will follow up with you right after this meeting. Okay? With this, I would like to ask you to jot down all of your additional comments for the later phase. And now I would like to invite... Oh, I beg your pardon. I haven't slept much today. Sebastian, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry. I would like to rise on the first comment because it mentions the regional level in complement to the national level that the panelists have mentioned. I would like to mention the local level of the local dimension of South-South cooperation, not only the participation of local governments, but also local civil society, local private sector, on issues like local governance, local fiscality, citizen participation, and other issues that can be tackled efficiently at the local level in order to complement the national views, the national vision. So my comment was, I think in Doha, in the event, you are also going to tackle this issue, and I think it's a very good initiative because the multi-level approach is necessary, I think, for the future in order to complement national policies with local strategies, national representation with local authorities, the local civil society and local private sector. So I just wanted to rise up that issue because I think it's a key issue for the future of South-South cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. As you rightly mentioned, decentralized cooperation is your initiative is among a few very successful initiatives, and we see decentralized cooperation as sometimes less bureaucratic, maybe more vibrant way how solution seekers and solution providers can find each other. So definitely we are looking forward to your participation at the Regional Expo. I would like to invite our distinguished participant, Mr. Abdelkarim Sma, Country Program Manager for IFAD, to share his presentation.
Thank you, Adam. It's really a pleasure to be here today in this Expo, and more precisely to participate in this event dedicated to the Arab region, a region close to my heart. I represent the International Fund for Agricultural Development, which is a UN specialized agency, but also an international financial institution. We provide concessional finance for investment in the rural areas of member states. The region I represent, Near East, North Africa, and Central Europe, is a region straddling 3 continents, a region with a lot of variety, a lot of diversity, which is also very conducive to South-South cooperation. If we focus on the Arab states, we can distinguish a typology between labor, abundant, countries and resource, oil-rich countries, and this also creates a lot of opportunities for exchanges. But what I would like to do today is just to shed some light on the role of IFAD and how IFAD, through its business model, is supporting South-South cooperation. The basic documents of IFAD are all referring to South-South cooperation as an important instrument for agricultural and rural development. The agreement establishing IFAD, which is the constitution of IFAD, is highlighting the need to exchange solutions related to agriculture within the member states. Our resources are replenished periodically. We do engage with consultation with governments to replenish the resources of the fund, and the 8th replenishment consultation report has called on IFAD to speed up and to strengthen its support to the middle-income countries' efforts to engage and share solutions with the low-income countries' member states. So, in a nutshell, the basic documents of IFAD are increasingly highlighting the role of South-South and triangular cooperations as a vehicle for rural transformation and as an important tool for poverty eradication. Next. But let me illustrate the role of IFAD by listing few practical examples. We do engage with countries, and we provide sovereign lending to countries, which is basically grants and concessional loans. So this concessional financing, which is provided through the governments, is used to invest in the rural areas. And what we do is that when designing and when implementing projects, we usually try to tap into the expertise of other countries. So we bring experts and consultants from southern country to another southern country in order to provide implementation support on the ground. In the countries where there is a narrow private sector base, we do encourage the procurement processes to use the opportunities available in other countries, and usually we end up with private sector companies providing goods and services under the IFAD projects from one country to another. This in addition to the more traditional exchanges of staff and study tours that we undertake in the region. Next. Our main engagement tool is the COSOP, which sets the strategy of the fund when working in a particular country. And our COSOPs, and particularly those in the middle-income countries, are singling out South-South cooperation as one of the engagement methodologies of the fund. In addition to that, we commission policy documents and studies just to try to help the countries to understand what are the opportunities in terms of offer, what are the expertise that they can share with others related to South-South cooperation. And here I would like just to mention a project we're currently developing with the South-South Cooperation Office in Cairo, whereby we're supporting through grant money the 3 corridors in our region. One which is stemming from Egypt, and this building on the experience of Egypt in South-South cooperation, which is dedicated to water management issues. Egypt has a history of prominent expertise in water management, and we would like just to tap into that expertise and take it from Egypt and also replicate it in the CIS countries. So that's one of the corridors. Then we're also working on another corridor which is building on the TICA, the Turkish International Cooperation Agency, and it's the experience of that country in terms of establishing farmer-based associations. So And that corridor will be supported through IFAD, so we can bring the expertise from Turkey and then disseminate it in North Africa. Because we always argue about the weaknesses of the institutional setup in the rural areas, the fact that the farmers' associations are weak, and the fact that they are not empowered enough. And I think that the South-South cooperation would provide an excellent tool for bringing the expertise from a country which has a documented success to other countries which are in need for further effort. But also we have instruments, we have knowledge management instruments in the fund, which would allow the systematic sharing of information. For the region I represent, we have the CARIANET network, which is a network with a dedicated portal whereby countries exchange solutions among themselves related to the work of IFAD and more broadly to the agricultural and rural development arena. Next. I'm not going to dwell on the value added of South-South and technical cooperation. I think there is a clear consensus about the merit of South-South cooperation and the fact it needs to be embedded in the work of the countries, but also in all international organizations. So in terms of relevance, effectiveness, efficiency, and policy engagement. But what I would like to do, and I know that we don't have a lot of time, is just to, the next one, please. I just want to say that IFAD business model is already servicing South-South cooperation. But there is also an intent about stepping up this support because we believe that our endeavor to scale up impact on the ground has a lot to gain from South-South cooperation. The classical, traditional flows from the north to the south have shown their limits, and I think that homegrown solutions can cost-effectively allow us to bring people out of poverty cheaply, but also more quickly. And that's something that we're betting on and we're working on. And for that, I would like just to express that the three pillars which are highlighted by the South-South Cooperation Office, in particular to our region, about the national level coordination boards, this launch of the portal, as well as hopefully the establishment of a regional funding facility, I would like just to express that IFAD is really supporting this approach, and we will spare no effort in order to contribute effectively to the achievement of those three broad themes, or three objectives. Thank you very much.
Abdel Karim, thank you very much for your concise and very detailed at the same time presentation. And we know that IFAD is among those advanced in implementing and mainstreaming South-South cooperation. For example, I know that you don't have even a specialized big unit because every unit actually implements South-South cooperation.
This is something I would like to highlight, is that we don't have a dedicated unit or dedicated staff to South-South cooperation. It is seamlessly embedded in our work. So everybody, every country program manager, every department manager is really servicing South-South cooperation. So, and as opposed to another approach where you dedicate a unit and which could be not the best solution, I would say. And this flexible but in the same time effective approach has been adopted by the management of IFAD.
So I would say we should consider this model pioneered by IFAD as one additional tool that other agencies may consider among the many choices that they have. Thank you very much. May I invite our next presenter, His Excellency Ambassador Hamid Opeleyeru, Assistant Secretary General, Organization of Islamic Cooperation. I would like to remind you that we're discussing today three areas: national level coordination, the online knowledge sharing, and the regional funding facility. And here we have a very practical example of the initiative that has been spearheaded by the OIC and the Somalian government and supported by a number of UN agencies, funds, and programs. And please, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you very much, distinguished panelists and ladies and gentlemen. Well, as earlier introduced, I'm from the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, which is based in Jeddah. We have been seized with South-South cooperation since the elaboration of the 10-year, the OIC 10-year program of action, which came into being in 2005 after the third extraordinary summit in Makkah Mukarramah. And then this paradigm shift, I mean, this initiative or the paradigm shift in the 10-year program of action is to ensure that the OIC goes into partnership, adopts a multi-stakeholders partnership for the development or for the implementation of the various cooperation programs which the OIC has enumerated in this 10-year program of action. Now, one of the institutions that we have been dealing with in this area is the UN Office for South-South Cooperation. Of course, we also have other partnership arrangements. In this case, I want to bail out my colleague from FAO when he was also talking about the need to showcase the South-South cooperation of FAO. We have a very good experience with FAO and IFAD. We have the Jeddah Declaration on Agriculture and Food Security, and FAO and IFAD are actually partners in this regard. We also have a model, a participation also, a partnership with UNWTO, which is with regard to some projects in West Africa, and that is tourism projects in West Africa. But specifically, today we are attending this forum, this sixth forum, against the background of a project which has just been announced now, which is a project for development and post-conflict recovery in Somalia. And this project is a triangular cooperation project, and which is between the OIC, the government of Somalia, and of course the UN South-South Office for Cooperation. Now, at this level, we are already mobilizing resources together with the UN agencies to ensure that these projects come into being very soon. Now, the project is aimed at rebuilding a functioning state in Somalia, and specifically strengthening the educational health infrastructure, as well as improving the livelihood of the displaced and the unemployed Somali through skill development and entrepreneurial training. Of course, the OIC also has put in place dedicated funding mechanism for its South-South cooperation, South-South and triangular cooperation also. We have the Islamic Solidarity Fund for Development, which is also a dedicated funding mechanism. These funding mechanisms were put in place due to the situation that was forced, or well, taking advantage of the problems that happened during the triple crises, where the ODA, the Overseas Development Assistance from northern countries, also dwindled. They were reduced progressively. And because of that, the OIC had to create funding architecture in the form of South-South cooperation. But then, of course, we also have triangular cooperation where we interface with UN systems, with other non-OIC international donors to ensure that we scale up our partnership projects. So in this particular area, we have also those projects in the area of trade, creating a system of harmonizing trade policies, which is a trade preferential system. And we also have the OIC Cotton Action Plan. The UN South-South Office also is partnering with us. We are discussing the partnership with the OIC on the OIC Cotton Action Plan. But with regards to regional, because this is a regional forum, and the OIC also has a very good prescription on the need to ensure that regional groups are used to implement most of these global programs. Of course, you know that OIC has 57 countries, and the UN, of course, is a larger body. But then there's an experiment whereby we use regional organizations to also key into some of these programs. So we have, with the Arab League, we have the Aid for Trade program, with which the OIC and the UN bodies are also working on this. The last summit, the last economic summit in Riyadh, also endorsed this particular framework, which is under one of the IDB, Islamic Development Bank group. We call it ITFC, as Islamic Trade Finance Cooperation. So all these are keying into our regional approach, and we think, the OIC thinks that the current regional framework, the 3-in-1 multilateral support architecture, which is being proposed, is also going to address a lot of issues that OIC is poised to address in the coming days. So I think, well, if there are other questions about what we are doing in the area of South-South cooperation since 2005, I will be ready to provide some highlights. Thank you very much for inviting me to this thing.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your presentation and also for having found time to attend this session. We know you're very busy. OIC is indeed a South-South based institution. It goes far beyond one particular region and embraces a number of regions of the globe. I would like to request my colleague, Mr. Kishan Khodai, former chair of the UN Theme Group on South-South Cooperation, and the only theme group that has been established by the UN RC office within the region. Before Kishan, I just wanted to take a moment to greet the director of the UN Office for South-South Cooperation, Mr. Yipeng Zhu, who joined us. As I mentioned to you, he was busy at a different meeting, the high-level meeting. So, YP, thank you very much for joining us. Kishan, please.
Thank you, Idem. Greetings, colleagues. I'll just wait for the PowerPoint before I get started here. What I want to do today is to highlight the important role. Of course, the Arab Gulf countries have been a major provider of South-South cooperation for a few decades now, quite a long time, including through cooperation with the UN. I'm currently with UNDP Regional Center in Cairo, but previously, as Ada mentioned, chairing our UN South-South theme group within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which brings together various UN agencies, UNDP, UNICEF, FAO, UNHCR, World Bank, and others, together to address the issue of South-South cooperation as a common UN agenda with the Kingdom. As we've seen in UN reports recently, of course, there's been a significant rise in South-South cooperation globally in recent years. And Saudi Arabia, of course, one of the leaders with $3 to $5 billion of overseas assistance each year. Similar levels as large players such as China and other leaders in the South-South arena. And of course, $40 billion of South-South cooperation since the 70s from China. Saudi Arabia, about 100 billion since the 1970s to over 87 countries around the world. Now, among the 3 billion per year that Saudi Arabia provides as assistance, about 2 billion is humanitarian assistance, crisis response and relief, and $1 billion is development assistance across various aspects of the development agenda. There's, of course, the bilateral aid agency, the Saudi Fund for Development, that's been established a few decades ago and is functioning, including through multilateral cooperation. It provides contributions through Islamic Development Bank, Arab Fund for Development, OPEC Development Fund, and UN contributions, of course, very significantly. In recent years, about $500 million of contributions to the UN, including to the World Food Program, and including for crisis relief operations in countries like Haiti, Pakistan, Somalia in recent years. So just to give quick pointers, and I'll keep it very brief, some of the activities that we as the UN within the Kingdom, as the country team in the Kingdom, have been doing with our partners locally. The establishment of a UN theme group on South-South cooperation, which I founded, which is was basically meant to bring together the UN locally. The Kingdom, of course, engages with all of the UN agencies individually, but there is a need for increased coordination with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and so that's one of the purposes of the local UN theme group. One of the important activities is to undertake local analysis and reporting as to the history over the last few decades of cooperation between Saudi Arabia and the UN agencies as a kind of stock-taking and really analysis base for future planning as a common UN system. And also to engage in local dialogues with our key partners, whether at the Foreign Ministry, as well as the aid agencies such as the Saudi Fund and other international entities such as IDB and others based in the Kingdom. Specific initiatives that we were engaged with the Foreign Ministry and others, a South-South Youth Exchange Program where we actually facilitated dialogues between youth from Saudi Arabia and emerging economies of Brazil, China, India, South Korea, and elsewhere, so that Saudi youth can be exposed to some of the development success stories of other emerging economies as a way of actually bringing this back and advocating for initiatives back in the Kingdom, which has been a very interesting process. Another important initiative on global diplomacy, working again with the Foreign Ministry to try to develop capacities within the country for its increasing global role within various General Assembly bodies, various other entities of the UN generally, including the post-2015 agenda, where Saudi Arabia took a lead in the region on the case of, under the energy track of the consultations last year, and is seeking to continue that this year and next. Also important cooperation locally with foundations. There are several Saudi foundations that are quite active locally in the Kingdom on issues of youth empowerment and other issues, and there's good benefits to actually learn from other countries in the South as to the role of foundations in development, in pushing local development issues. In terms of working with the Kingdom on global development issues, an interesting idea that came about through the dialogue locally with the Foreign Ministry was to help cooperate for a global development fund globally to try to engage local partners within Saudi Arabia for the global development agenda. And this is actually a concept that came from the Foreign Ministry as a way of engaging with the UN broadly. Discussions with several Saudi foundations on potentials within the Arab region, given the priority, top priority development issues within the region on issues such as food security and youth empowerment. And very strong cooperation, as our esteemed colleague previously mentioned, with the Islamic Development Bank. We now have a new program on intra-regional trade within the Arab region, connecting countries on the trade agenda within the region, which UNDP's regional office is managing together with other UN agencies, including Geneva-based agencies. So a quick snapshot of some of the initiatives as how the UN operates locally to try to establish national platforms within countries to bring to bear the whole capacity of the UN system to work with our partners locally and their increasing levels of outward cooperation around the world. Thank you.
Kishan, thank you very much. The UN theme group that you championed in Saudi Arabia, following the demand-driven approach with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I think is a very practical example of how countries can implement and help, actually how UN can help the countries access the multilateral 3-in-1 support architecture that has been mandated by, as you know, high-level conference of the United Nations on South-South cooperation in Nairobi, here, in 2009. So again, this is a very practical approach that other countries could replicate, and we have some expertise within our team. Kishan is within the regional center in Cairo that could be tapped into. We have 2 more inputs on our side. I would like to summarize because there is a mosaic of several things that you have heard today. I would like to put it all together, and also I would like to request our Director of the UN Office for South-South Cooperation in his closing to give us an overall vision for the work and why UN Office for South-South Cooperation engages at the regional and level, and how we see this work being done together with our partners. Before this, I would like to invite you to please present 2 or 3 questions that you may have, and I promise that any follow-up questions that you have, you can email to us. We will make sure that we respond. So who would like to start? Thank you.
It's not a question, it's just a comment about IFED. In fact, the network for camels within the Arab region and even the globe network based in Acced is a co-finance with and cooperation with IFED. I think this is a very good example for the South-South cooperation that IFED is contributing in. I really appreciate very much this kind of, because we are able to do regional work and South-South cooperation with this support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions or comments on your side? Please, Ahmed. Ahmed is our star from the region. He was one of the key within His Excellency's team in preparing this national level stock taking. So please, Ahmed, your floor is yours.
Thank you, Edim. Thank you very much. I just would like to refer to what is His Excellency from the OIC and also Kishan. I think this is a time where it's a kind of a juncture where the shrinking of resources at this time and also the mobilization of resources. And what it has been set as a model for Saudi Arabia and led by the UN country team, I think that it should be an example for a collective efforts from all the UN entire family to look for others, non-traditional donors, which is precisely, it has been mentioned in the recommendation of Sudan. And I think this, it will work if there is a will and if there is some efforts due from all the international or regional organizations such as Arab League, OIC, and also the Islamic Development Bank, because it gives a momentum, not even for the dimension of South-South cooperation. It will not limit on that, but also it will give political influence for this country to stand on one equal footing in the political arena within the regions or within the cooperation as a whole. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Your comment is well noted, and I hope we can build on your suggestion in our follow-up discussions. Please, our colleague from the League of Arab States.
Yes, just based on what our friend from Sudan was just trying to I would like to say that Acced just finalized the report for the northern part of Sudan, cultivating wheat using groundwater. I think this is kind of activities which really will bring a third active member to join, because the investment in Sudan for agriculture is very crucial. And we believe that this is the balance for the food security in the region. So that's why I feel this kind of cooperation exists between regional entities and national level should be also supported and find also interest from different groups to support. Thank you.
Okay, shukran jazilan. I was just told that we have to wrap up because the interpretation is going to be over, but so maybe we have another 15 minutes and then we can proceed to the next session. Let me, I knew that's why my presentation is only one slide. It's pretty much self-explanatory, but can we please have the presentation on the screen? Thanks a lot. So we were thinking, as we know, South-South cooperation happens whether UN is there or whether UN is not there. It happened, it happens, and it will happen. The only thing that we could probably, if we approach it wisely, we could work together to support it to become more intense, to speed it up, and to make it more diverse. So in thinking how we can, what are the few areas where we can focus to support the country to ensure that there is a venue for harmonized action among the many players under the leadership of the countries, under the ownership of the countries. There are three elements. You have heard today about some examples of the work that we do along these lines, but these are the three elements that Jeff mentioned in the beginning. And these are the three elements that are called to link the countries to the multilateral support, 3-in-1 multilateral support architecture, namely South-South Development Academy, South-South Development Expo that you're attending these days, and the Global Assets and Technologies Exchange. So let me just mention what we mean by the national coordination, what we mean by national level coordination boards. This is a kind of extension of the functions of the National Coordination Agency, because we know that the expertise does not always lie within one agency. And also we know that in order to be able to effectively implement South-South cooperation, the country has to regularly take stock of their capacities as well as their needs. So this national level coordination board is actually a body that might be as one of the models to help the national level coordination agency to do their work properly, and also to reach out to different levels. It is important to understand that national level coordination agency is, as an example with IFAD, is probably one small unit, but the needs and the capacities are all over the place. The three different colors are different players. FAO today and League of Arab States mentioned that there should be, the civil society should be involved in the process, that the private sector should be involved in the process. UN can also play a certain role. So the idea for this national level stock taking and the consultative process that we have already seen happening is to test this kind of approach and see how partners would see themselves engaged. One important point to be made here, one of the principles that we observe is not to recreate or reinvent new structures, rather build on something that is already there. So this is a generic approach, but it should be adapted depending on the concrete context. Second, because we all know that while the countries in the Arab region, they have certain common features, they're still different. There are richer countries, there are poorer countries, they have different organizational form, they have different geographical position, and also in terms of South-South cooperation, they see South-South cooperation from different angles. Some are more interested to be recipients, some are more interested to be providers, or both. That is why the regional approach, a cost-effective regional approach, because our resources are limited and they're shrinking every day, should account for this very flexible system where the countries would find a niche for themselves. This is why we decided to focus on this regional online portal, which is actually part of the global facility, and the solutions and mechanism and experts and the centers of excellence that will be published there. We do this with the Islamic Development Bank to start it up, but then we hope to engage other partners. This is called to address this need for a seamless mechanism for real-time exchange between different levels. Finally, we all know that resources are always there to be supplemented for things to happen. But as you know, in most cases in South-South cooperation, it is really taken care of by the solution recipients and solution providers. So the regional funding facility that we're talking about is actually to just fill the gap. And we put a provisional ceiling for this cost sharing of up to 40%, meaning that solution providers and solution recipients will have to identify at least 60% of the funding or resources or in-kind contribution necessary for the concrete initiatives to be going. You can see here clearly that we are not there to implement the initiatives themselves. It is up to the private sector, it is up to the civil society, up to the certain line ministries to do this work. So here we're trying to create an all-inclusive platform where each player that have been doing already South-South cooperation work can find a niche and can further boost the work that they're doing. And I just have this small track for you to see that, let's say, what we're trying to do, we're trying to speed up the process. So now if you can say car, then the race car, the helicopter, the plane, and the rocket. So we're aiming for the rocket. But this is only one element. Speed and intensity is one element. Another element is diversity. You can see different colors. It means that there are different areas that yet to be touched upon, and we hope that through our support we'll be able to open up ways for the countries to explore new directions, cultural cooperation, economic cooperation, etc. Finally, it is very important to mention before I conclude, it is important to see South-South cooperation as a platform where the countries of the Arab states region can come as one, with one voice, and it is not a secret that the Arab state has been contributing a lot to the global economy. The Arab states region cumulatively is one of the largest net contributors to the global economy. However, it has not been reflected on the voice and the level of influence that the Arab states region has for the global decisions. We see that South-South cooperation could be one opportunity for the countries to come together as one, and also to address some of the common issues like joint market, inter-regional trade, etc., etc. So I'll stop here. You have already received by now. If not, we will be happy to share with you the detailed concept of this meeting with a detailed description. Just wanted to highlight some of these points. So you see, before, South-South cooperation is always there, but we just hope it to be even more intensive and bigger and grow as a baby. Not our baby, but the baby of the Arab states.
Running on renewable energies.
Yes, running on renewable energies, as Jeff is saying. Sorry for this rhetoric. I just wanted to explain a little bit this. And YP, please, if I may ask you to share your vision on how we do this work globally, and also how do we link it up at the regional level, and anything that you have to share with us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I was late because I was also opening and chairing the other session of the DGs, so I apologize for being late. But I would first acknowledge the dignitaries on the high table, and they are not just making presentation statements. They are actually exhibiting the strength of a regional approach to South cooperation and the commitment from the region, and that's why I think we are here today. I would probably only make 3 points. I know that the Excellencies already covered most of the issues. The first, as the director of the UN Office for South Cooperation, I would like to make the following points, and not necessarily in a very good order. First, I think I would really wanted to sort of position this initiative that we are supporting together with the UN system, especially UNDP, is very firmly rooted in the soil of South-South culture. And I think the region has been traditionally a champion, a region of champions. And therefore, you have already seen from even in this room, we have national funds, public foundations or private foundations. So I think they started long time ago. And many other regions like Asia probably do not necessarily have all these funds. Saudi fund, the Kuwaiti fund, and Egyptian fund. And also our largest OIC organization has a huge also a development fund. And so I think I must say that South-South is really deeply rooted on the soils of the region. And therefore, while most of the up-to-date initiatives focused on a sort of inter-regional, within the region, or bilateral. And but I think the time has arrived when the regional actors or national actors are ready to reach out beyond the region. And so that's the reason I think we started this initiative first from the Arab States region. The second point I want to make is that instead of going into the South-South agenda or pushing the agenda in a very general sense as we normally do, we do a lot of preaching and we do a lot of advocating, we do a lot of lip servicing. And we wanted to be very pragmatic, very pragmatic. So therefore, I wanted to rationalize the initiative by saying that starting, as Adam was saying, 2009, when the Nairobi Conference on Social Cooperation challenged the UN Office for Social Cooperation to set up a mechanism that can enable member states to systematically and regularly identify their own knowledge and expertise and manage that and promote globally. So the system and platform to manage knowledge is the first task that is given to the office to help. So we created the Global South-South Development Academy and networks to document solutions from the region. And secondly, Nairobi also challenged us by putting in place a platform where the countries can showcase regularly their successes. And that's the one that you are experiencing and you're making here, the Expo. And so there's a second pillar of the architecture that the Nairobi challenged us to do. Then the third pillar is that after production of knowledge, sharing of knowledge, and then you showcase knowledge here, solutions are promoted here, and partnerships are formed here, but you have to make the transaction taking place. You have to make the left hand meet the right hand. And you have to make the two hands, when they meet, they're not just shaking hands, but some transactions are taking place. So therefore, we put in place the third architecture, which is the SSG, the South-South Global Assets and Technology Exchange. It's kind of development NASDAQ. I know you have, all your countries have a stock exchange. Per se. So the knowledge that you created, document, and then you showcased here as a product, as a transferable, tradable product, and you have to put into the system to trade. So that this is the 3-in-1 architecture that Adam was talking about. A system to produce a product, which is knowledge, a system to showcase, market your product, which is the Expo, and the system to transfer and finance the matches, the deals, and that's the SSG. So this is what we are now. After 3 years of piloting, the General Assembly recognized it, the SG recognized, even in the SG report, he said, he cited the 3-in-1 architecture as one of the key milestones in the UN system operational development. So we do believe that